Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFT Hack technical workshop. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, who is going to give us technical deep dive to prepare hackers for the NFT Hack. It will give a technical overview of the Filecoin ecosystem, and the NFT Hack is organized in partnership with Filecoin and dedicated to NFT projects. It is part of Filecoin Club, Inco's long-term Filecoin program. I will be sharing links soon. Who didn't sign up yet for the hackathon, please check the link out. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Mosh from Protocol Labs. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening. I hope you're doing great and excited to roll into this next phase of the Encode Filecoin Club. I had a very fun time meeting many of you back in July, I believe, with the Introduction to Filecoin workshop, and I'm glad to be back here and really excited to see what you all have to build. So for those of you who don't know me, I go by Mosh online or Mishmosh, depending on which internet venue we're talking about. I lead the Builders Funnel group at Protocol Labs and Filecoin Project, and that is a group that takes new developers or developers all the way from learning about our content through workshops, hackathons, events like this, through our micro grants and grant programs, which support continued building in the Filecoin and IPFS ecosystems, through accelerators, and other programs that help projects grow on to become incredible businesses of their own. So it's great to be here because I see not only a ton of energy for builders right now with this challenge and the projects that I hope that you're scheming up in front of us today, but also to be here at the start of what I hope is going to be a long and fascinating, fulfilling, really fun journey building in Web3. And we have lots and lots of resources to support you, both during the hackathon here as well as beyond. So stay tuned for more information on that, or just reach out in the Discord channel at any time if you're saying, what the heck is she talking about? Okay. And I'll stop a few times to hop into chat, or maybe George, or sorry, Anthony, you can just interrupt if there's a lot of action there and we should take
it. Absolutely.
Cool, thank you. All right, so hopefully many of you have heard of IPFS and Filecoin. IPFS is a decentralized web protocol for sharing data quickly and easily. Often there's some confusion around file system, interplanetary file system. It's not a file system. It's not, like a Dropbox equivalent, although it is the protocol that enables decentralized systems like chain safe files, for example, to be built on top. So IPFS is really the protocols that allow computers to share data across decentralized networks. And then Filecoin is another protocol that adds storage incentives. It's built on top of IPFS, and Filecoin is really good at storing data long-term across time, across a lot of different storage nodes. And together they help us break free from centralized services while retaining similar luxuries of speed and permanence. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the core concepts of IPFS and Filecoin. The first one, and this is really, really clutch, is content addressing. So with content addressing, your content or your data is run through a one-way cryptographic hash function. The output basically guarantees a unique content identifier for your data. I like to equate it to a fingerprint. So it's not encryption. It's using cryptography to generate a fingerprint. And with this fingerprint, it gives you confidence in what that file or what that data contains. So you can easily verify it, that it's not corrupted in the future. You can deduplicate it. If you're downloading the same Netflix episode 55 times in a night, and because you have this confidence in the data, you can fetch it from anyone. You don't have to go to a server that has the stamp of authority or stamp of security. And so with the content identifier system, this replaces file names like episode 57.mpg or whatever your arbitrary file name is. It is a reliable and verifiable CID or name for your data. So that's that's one of the very core concepts of IPFS and Filecoin. And so now if you always have confidence in what your data is, then it doesn't matter who you get it from or where. And that allows us to take advantage of peer-to-peer networks. So instead of going to a centralized server, making requests all the way back to some root or a small number of servers, we can instead create peer-to-peer networks where any node on the network is both acting as a telephone directory and a data provider. So peers, this means that it's a lot easier to scale because you don't have to scale up your servers to meet all the potential demand. Nodes will connect to other nodes in the network and form enough connections that they can route eventually to any data that they want as part of this network. So that makes peer-to-peer networks super scalable. It also makes them very resilient. If you have an interruption, if your if you made some mistakes in your configuration file this week and some of your servers went down, that wouldn't happen in a peer-to-peer network. We wouldn't have such a tight bottleneck at a few single points of failure. Instead, the peer-to-peer network would self-heal because nodes could then just try another node, and those nodes also have the ability to route you to the data that you want on the web. So peer-to-peer networks, really fun, opens up a lot of possibilities, especially in areas where the internet is less reliable or bandwidth is expensive, or maybe you want to be able to work as access goes on and offline. The last core concept that I'll cover is storage proofs. So the part that Filecoin adds specifically is a system of storage proofs or storage deals that are made between clients and providers, and then these deals are recorded on chain. So the when the deal began, how much it costs, and most notably the CIDs. So these CIDs are really great because you can later go back and verify that when a certain piece of content began to be stored. And these CIDs can also be used for comparison. They can be used for fetching or addressing later on. So lots of interesting possibilities when we use CIDs to refer to storage, the contents of your storage, and then those CIDs are available on the public blockchain. And because of combining all of these, Filecoin is really designed for Web3 from the ground up. It's highly compatible with IPFS and Web3. There's integrations and bridges already out with networks like Near, Hedera, Ethereum, Flow. It's verifiable through cryptographic proofs. You can enforce this in a decentralized context. And then it's also a really large scale network that has the ability to store tons of data. Most blockchains are not designed to store much data. It becomes really inefficient to have everything on chain. And so most of the smart contract platforms then kind of outsource data storage to systems like Filecoin, where the design is such that it's fairly efficient to keep the chain small, just put the CIDs on chain and then keep the data locally with all the storage providers you've chosen to make deals with. And that allows large scale storage to be combined with faster smart contract networks to create really interesting things, interesting applications and use cases and experiments. So all together, you have all these building blocks. And so I think we're in just the early weeks of this hackathon. And I imagine you might be thinking, well, what can I build? What can I do with all of these things? Well, this is an example. If you were to go whole hog and say, build a fully decentralized app top to bottom, you could, right? But you could also choose to decentralize parts of your stack. For example, just the front end, or just the logic, or just the object or data storage that's part of your application. So, any of these are possibilities. I think we're in the very early days of building the decentralized web still. And so we have, a really great suite of tools, but there's a lot of innovation kind of ripe for the picking. And I think you can carve out solutions or build some amazing things using, some or all or none of these layers. here's one example, right? And this is one that's kind of gone to the full extreme. Uniswap has a front end that loads from IPFS. So the website itself is decentralized. The login is through a MetaMask, for example, with a decentralized wallet, and then it uses a storage helper, and then the content is stored on IPFS or Filecoin. So how do you get to the, basically how do you get from your web browser, which is really used to fetching Web 2 addresses, to Web 3? Well, you can put a URL like app.uniswap.org in there, and it connects to a Web 3 gateway that bridges to a content address. But if you were to use Chrome with IPFS companion extension installed, or Brave browser, which natively supports IPFS, you could actually just type the CID in there, and that would get you to this this website. So I wanted to share some examples of what you could build with all these primitives, right? Berty is an example of a fully decentralized messaging app. So it basically runs IPFS node on your mobile device. And this means that by connecting to other nodes outside of the web, you can have a messaging app that works on and offline. It uses Bluetooth if it has to. It uses cellular data, or it uses the web, whatever is available. So this is really cool. It makes messaging and communication possible in contexts that don't have reliable internet. It's also a lot cheaper if you're being charged for bandwidth. So really interesting work being done by the Berty team. Ausius is another example. So Ausius is basically a music network, and they provide two services. It's kind of a streaming service similar to Spotify, where you can play music, and they also provide a lot of music to digital games, as embed. So all that really great electronic music you're hearing in games, this is one source that you can use. So maybe you're building a project where you want some streaming music, check out Ausius. Ausius has a network of decentralized nodes. So rather than your music coming from a few servers where they have to pay for bandwidth costs, essentially everyone participating in the Ausius network stores some music locally, and then shares it with the rest of the network. If you remember all the way back to systems like Napster, for example, it uses a lot of the same concepts, but I think it modernizes it in a way that makes it really appropriate and efficient for the web we have today. So to go back a little bit, the ways IPFS and Filecoin work together are that IPFS generally is like the layer closer to the end user. It's great for flexible retrieval. And then Filecoin is where you get that persistence and verifiability. So with IPFS, there's no guarantee that other peers will have your content. With Filecoin, that's how you ensure that that's possible. But when you're building applications, you do not need to think about this difference at all, because I'm about to walk you through a series of storage helpers that basically will do this all for you in a single API call. So the first is a little bit outside the box. What Fleek does is it connects to your GitHub or GitLab account. You fill in a few configuration settings, and it deploys your site to IPFS. It almost makes it too easy, super smooth. It works with almost all of the modern web frameworks today. If you're building a website as part of your hackathon project, this is a really fun way to make sure that your website is also hosted on the decentralized web. And then Fleek is backing up to Filecoin in the background. It's not currently using it to serve up the websites, but this is kind of one example of a very seamless way you can take advantage of both. The next few are tools that I call storage helpers. They take what can be like 8 or 9 steps in the deal-making flow to ensure that everything's working as expected, and collapse it into a single API call. So one of them is Fleek's Space Daemon. So if anyone's building desktop apps, and wearing a really cool rainbow shirt. The Space Daemon is a great tool to look into. Under the hood, it basically takes an IPFS node and textile buckets and Powergate and wraps it all into one background service. You can do lots of configuration with it, and you basically distribute this alongside your desktop app, and makes it easy for those, for each user running your app to connect to the network. Another great service to look into is Estuary. This is really high performance decentralized storage it handles all of the steps to make storage deals, verify data. You can see the dashboard with blue and green is a visual way to see what's going on with your storage deal as it's being propagated across like multiple providers and is in the process of being proven. But Estuary has some great documentation at docs.estuary.tech. And when you make that storage call, it's immediately uploaded to a hosted Estuary node, which is basically a combined IPFS and Filecoin node. And then it automatically stores your content with 6 providers around the world. And then you can get it back, whenever you need to use your data. There's a visual interface too, if you just want to, go explore and track the deal making process. But if you want to use this as part of your application, the HTTP API or the curl interface is probably the best ways to interact with it. Probably the HTTP API. The next storage helper that I wanted to share is NFT.Storage. It is designed for NFT developers who want free decentralized storage. And this is where that CID comes into play because, as we know, an NFT is just a pointer to a digital asset. And if your digital asset is just a regular file name, you can change the image that is being stored as that file name, and the NFT holder is SOL. With IPFS, CIDs are part of the metadata that's stored, and so that ensures that the NFT that was stored is the same one that's being traded or reassigned or claimed. And this also makes multiple copies. I think it's like 3 copies on IPFS, and then it's also backed up to Filecoin. You get 5 copies there, and you get some really nicely formatted metadata in return when you store NFT data on this service. There's a JS client library, and then there's also an HTTP API. The other way you can use NFT.Storage is to configure it as a remote pinning service in your IPFS instance. So if you're running, an IPFS service and then you want to store to NFT.Storage, this is one of the pinning options that you can use. The next one is Powergate. So if you want to really dig into configurations and setup and just want a more a tool that's more supportive of power usage or lots of configuration, Powergate's a good option to look into. It's basically a Docker container that has an IPFS node and a Filecoin node. And again, you make a shorter series of calls. I think you stage your data, then you store it, and then you can retrieve it. So still a lot simpler than dealing with both of those systems at the lower level, but it gives you a little bit more control. The other great thing about Powergate is that the textile team has been building some really nice bridges to Near, Polygon, and other smart contract platforms. So this could be a good option to look into if you want to be integrating those systems closely. And there's a JS and a Go client for this, a CLI, a gRPC API. So lots of ways to use Powergate. I think I've covered that one already. All right. There are a few resources if you want to keep learning and dig in. The first one is called Verifying Storage on Filecoin, and that is one of the great tutorials at Proto School. I think many of you have seen this link before. And essentially it talks you through concepts, you take a little quiz, you get a gold star, and then you move on to the next concept. The other resource that I wanted to share with you, and I'll put the link out here, is a new resource that we have called Getting Started with IPFS and Filecoin. It has videos to all the key concepts, links to all the docs, all the storage helpers, and even more. There's some really great debugging and network tools. So one is a CID inspector. So if if you're generating CIDs through IPFS and you want to know exactly what's going on, you can paste a CID in here to break it down. Another one is a CID calculator, so you can play around with this and convert a string to a CID. Wow, that's fun. Entirely in the browser. So if this were your data, this is the CID that would be generated. If anyone wants to put that on IPFS, you can. And then this is another, this is actually a really helpful debugging tool, the IPFS CID checker. And it's going to take a minute to load. But what it does is it takes your CID and then it checks if it's available across the network. So if you run this test, it'll show you if the CID is fetchable, and often this can highlight issues with your local network or your gateway configuration or other things like that. And there's some explanations of the most common error messages and pointers to how you can fix it. So good to know when you're building your applications. Let's see. If you're building, if you're sending transactions directly to the Filecoin chain, if your project, if you choose to do that with your project, let's say to do some dashboards or metadata around Filecoin deals, or to build wallets or wallet tools, there's a series of signing libraries that you can use as part of your project, and all the links are here. And then let's see. There's a couple demo examples here. One is really fun. It's called FlowWow, and it's a demo that combines NFT.Storage and the Flow network to build an NFT pet marketplace. And it's a demo of how to mint and manage NFTs on the Flow blockchain and store them. You can browse these really cute pets and adopt them. And there's nice developer tools inspector tools that show you exactly what's going on throughout the course of the smart contract and CID generation. So that's a cool one to check out if you'd like to see an example using Flow. And then the last example that or resource that I want to share is NFTschool.dev. Which for anyone who's planning to build NFT related projects, there's some great content here to learn all about the basics, and then also how to use NFT School or NFT.Storage with some common test networks or production networks, as well as some dev tooling. So what I really wanted to leave you all with is that, the tools are getting better. We're here to help. But I think the thing that we're really looking for in your hackathon projects is to do something a little bit different than what people have built before. So let's say you want to really lean into the idea of peer-to-peer networks. So what can you build that's maybe offline first, or what can you build that is a lot more efficient because it's using a peer-to-peer design rather than centralized servers? Like maybe there are different ways that you can build a social networking app or a streaming chat application that doesn't rely on servers. Or if you'd like to go more down the verifiable storage path, what domain can you connect this with, whether it's land rights or music tracks or paintings or other digital assets, what can you do with it that no one's done before? And maybe also with content addressing. Are there ways that using CIDs and designing a storage system around content addressing gives you ways to update data sets or perform more efficient syncing than in a classical location address context. Really, really excited to see all of the projects that you have in mind and everything that you're planning to build. The future of the D-Web is in your hands. We build the tools and then you get to make really cool things with them. So can't wait to see what comes out of this hackathon. Thanks everyone for your time. And I'll check for any questions. You can just drop them in the chat on the side.
Hey, thank you very much, Mosh. So everyone, if you have some questions, please write down on the chat. So then I will check and I can help Mosh to answering that. Yeah, it's really interesting workshop that a lot of examples like Berty, Ausius, I didn't know about it so well, and it's really, really interesting to look into it. And also you shared a lot of storage helpers for the hackers. I believe that is going to be good help for the hackers. Okay, there is a yeah. So hey guys, you can drop the questions. Yes. Okay, the first question is the review slide. Yeah, sure, we will. And okay, Scandish was asking any particular theme which is more focused, Mosh.
Oh, any particular theme? I think there are several prize categories, and I don't remember the specifics of them off the bat, but check the Discord channel. Will repost. I know there's a channel on bridges where you can bridge Filecoin and IPFS with any smart contract network. We gave a few examples, but you don't have to use the ones that we gave. Bridging any. I think there's a track on domain specific solution. So find the area that you're really, really interested in, whether it's pet adoption or digital land rights or identity, and build a solution that's uniquely possible because of the D-Web in that space. And then I think there's also a general just using IPFS and Filecoin for decentralized storage track.
I also just share the link for the hack challenges so that hackers can check it out. And then the next question is from Jan. When storing an image on IPFS, can anyone with access to the URI CID access and view and download for a full-size image?
Yep, exactly. And that's by design. So we wanted, the idea is that IPFS is a way to distribute and share that data. And it also, there's some interesting possibilities, right? So if, let's say, a research university has collected tons and tons of data on breast cancer images. And usually with scientific data sets, there's tons of value to making that available to the public community, but universities aren't well set up to basically to become a server for all of this data. If you built something on using Filecoin contracts, we're calling this concept data DAOs. If anybody can put the initial content up, but then anybody else can pay for the ongoing storage, then you can democratize access to public data sets by bringing together different parties, some to provide the initial data, and then other parties to provide funding for ongoing storage, and then maybe opening up access to that content to the world. If you want this data to be private, then you should encrypt it first using any of the kind of standard world-class encryption algorithms available out there.
Okay. And the next question is is it possible to build an NFT owned by multiple people so that the benefits are shared?
Ooh, that's really interesting. So I think that most of the leading smart contract platforms only allow for one owner or one wallet address per NFT. But if that wallet address is actually a multi-sig wallet with multiple parties, and then it's configured, let's say it's a 203 multi-sig where you need 2 of the 3 addresses to confirm a transaction, then essentially you have a shared ownership NFT. That's a really interesting question and project idea.
Okay, then the next question is like a zone. How do you categorize IPFS content just by using CID? Example by video, JPG, spreadsheet, etc.
You cannot. And that is by design. So it's a one-way hash function, and you cannot predict the outputs when you come in, which also means that becomes harder for malicious parties to know what data it is that any given peer is storing or holding.
Okay, and then the Michael is asking, he was thinking about a project around NFT analytics. Any particular resources you'd call out for reading on-chain data for analytics?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know, but I'll look into it and get back to you on the Discord. I know Filecoin has a transactions API in beta if you want to look at all of the storage deals online. But I think the chains, the majority of NFT transactions are on like Ethereum, Flow, Polygon networks, and I'm not as familiar with the chain lookup tools for those platforms.
Okay, so meanwhile, we can wait a little bit. People are maybe formulating the questions. Everyone, you should take this chance to asking your questions. Meanwhile, I would like to just also promote the other events coming up so that we have NFT Hack Roundtable next Tuesday, and then on Thursday we can have the ideation workshop. Also, another NFT Spotlight workshop gonna be the week after. I will be just sharing the link here, so everyone, you can look it up and sign up for the events on Eventbrite.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you can
I'm curious if people could just drop in the chat if you have a team already or not.
Oh, yeah, sounds good. Like a team. Sure, people, can you write down if you already have a team, if you have a rough idea? Oh, Michael is looking for a team. Scandish, open the collaborate. Yes, for this, guys, you can also use the find a teammate channel. Please proactive there to catching the others. And Curtis was just asking, can we get the link for the Notion page? Perfect. So now people start to looking for the teammates here, which is nice. And if you want to have some questions regarding your idea, if you want to prove your concept, feel free to drop the message here now with Mosh, because this will be the best chance to listen to the experts.
Yeah, I love seeing all the chatter going on the side, people connecting with each other. Encourage you to do that. Continue to do that in the Discord, even after this is over. Yeah, it would be great that everyone can share their idea on Discord as well. And of course, you can book a time slot with me to have a call that I can give you also feedback and advice. But also, if you have some rough ideas, you can drop it here. Then you can listen to some opinions. Sasha asked, any tips on how to find and build an NFT project focus team with coders and creatives? Is that about how to find and build your team or find and build your project? Maybe I'll try to answer both. I think a great way to find a team is just to connect on Discord and start having a conversation. What problems would you solve? How would you build it? What tech stack you'd use? And see if that's something that lights your fire that you want to be passionate about for the next couple of months. When it comes to building an NFT project, I would love to see everyone looking a little bit beyond the horizon of the demo examples that we gave. Those are really just to show you how to make the API calls or how to set up your application. But there's there's tons and tons of NFT marketplaces today. I think that would be, if you built one, that would essentially rehash things that other people have already put out in the world. But there are really interesting applications of NFTs, bridging online and offline, for example, or using NFTs as assets inside other digital experiences like video games, I don't know, world is your oyster, right? So look at bridging on online and offline, and then using NFTs as assets inside other experiences.
Standish just asked how to get started with wearable NFTs, which might act as a token for the particular community.
Huh. That is pretty awesome. I don't know, Scandish. It seems like you might have an idea here. Zcash is sick and tired of the social security number. I'm guessing that is a US resident. Social security numbers are used both as an identifier and a password. So all these government services ask for your social security number as an identifier, but then credit cards and other services, other agencies will ask for the last four digits of your number as a way to prove your identity. So this is a really sloppy and this is a really sloppy and insecure system, and there are probably some possibilities around that as well. Are some of the blockchains better at supporting development of NFT type projects? Any recommendation on the choice? If you had to choose one blockchain, which one would be? This is a highly personal, possibly religious debate. So I don't think I can speak universally. I will say that Flow's documentation is one of the best that we've encountered. Transaction fees are pretty straightforward. So that's one option to look into. Ethereum is kind of like the grandparent of smart contract platforms, and there are tools that make it increasingly easier to build on that. So if you want something that's very universal and trusted by large organizations, like Ethereum, maybe look into Lighthouse. I'll put the link in the side.
And more casters coming in.
Okay.
One question is, can we build the NFT exchanges and NFT AMMs? You can answer perhaps after this. Yeah.
Cool. I see team andconprotocol.com building a cross EVM bridge. Cool. Can we build NFT exchanges or NFT AMMs? Yeah, I'm curious what you mean by exchanges. It probably doesn't work the same way as regular token exchanges, because these, each asset is unique. You can't, trade them in high volume and treat them generically. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you have in mind, but really any project idea is fair game.
Then another question is, what resources would you recommend for getting started with building a token around the work of a particular community?
Oh, that's really interesting. Are you thinking about, how to create incentive and reward structures that that reward offline, both offline and online work?
It seems like they are creating incentives.
Yeah, I mean, you have this classic Schrodinger's cat situation where the minute you start tying metrics to a system, you influence that system in the direction of what you're measuring, right? There's probably a story or phrase for that. There have been some projects trying to measure and then also reward open source contributions. SourceCred is one to look at. And the work that they've done in kind of researching different ways people contribute to systems. And then Eleanor Ostrom's book, she's done a lot of research. She's I think a Nobel Prize winner in economics and has done a lot of research around creating and contributing to the what she calls the commons, but I think it's very, very similar to open source projects.
Okay. And then Sasha have been asking, can you talk more about how NFTs might be used more creatively in bridging virtual and in real life experience? Thoughts on how NFT will be used inside other applications?
Yeah. So one example that I think a few teams have been building out is using NFTs for land records management in areas where governments don't have a trusted and centralized system. The NFT could carry data, metadata about the local, the owner of a particular parcel of land. It can be recorded on the public blockchain. This can be verified by interested buyers or people who want to develop or lease that land, and then you would have a public record of land ownership that's very, very difficult to basically resistant to corruption or single party overwriting those records. Another example might be getting really creative around the combination of live and digital music experiences. So music is an area that inspires tons of fans, really, really passionate fans. And let's say you bought an NFT that gave you priority access to a certain number of live shows per year, or the ability to vote on the set list for your favorite band at their next show, for example. Just some ideas. I'd love to hear more from other people.
Yeah, maybe it'd be nice if you guys have some NFT ideas, you can drop just some keywords. I think especially like this time, like a lot of people are really interested in NFT, but still I think we didn't explore enough all the possibilities, what potentials we have. So I'm really curious what can be in this hackathon. Sasha has an idea that how we can use NFT as a resource to solve the climate change. Oh, that's very interesting. Do you have some thoughts on this, Michelle?
I think there are many people out there who are much more expert in climate crisis than I am, but I know that currently there's a system of like cap and trade carbon emissions credits or other credits that are already traded in a Web 2 way. I don't even know if these systems are digitized. Like it might be through strange agreements between ambassadors of different nations. I'm not sure if there may already be a way to trade these systematically, but moving those into the decentralized web would be a really interesting idea.
Okay, and then another question is, are CIDs already NFT?
Okay. CIDs by themselves are not already an NFT. I think an NFT is essentially, if you break it down into its components, it's some sort of asset that's been digitized, whether it's a bitmap image or an audio recording of something, or even just like the scanned version of the Declaration of Independence. It's any digital asset, and then it's paired with a smart contract that can basically confirms or controls who has rights or who has access to that digital asset. So and that can be on any smart contract platform. So an NFT I think of as having two parts: the asset itself and then the part that actually makes it non-fungible. CIDs by themselves wouldn't be NFTs.
While maybe yeah, so like Sasha was like dropping one of his projects, Future Relics. So while waiting, others are formulating some questions. It's just like my question to Mosh. I was just like wondering, like, what made you to join to Filecoin? I just like for me, like always, it's amazing to see that like people who start to work on this like ever-changing space. And I'm kind of curious, like, hey, what was your motivation, how you get into this domain?
Oh, that's a great question. I've worked on the web for a long time now, like closing in on 2 decades, and it's a really fun place to be. I actually started out studying architecture, and the first class I took, they said, "Oh, well, here's a new project in progress. We started applying for permits 12 years ago, and we're breaking ground now." And I was 18 years old at the time. It was like 2/3 of my life waiting just to even get started building a project, and so that's how I came to software, because you can build things so much faster. And it just kind of coincided with the world embracing more and more software systems to make things more efficient, more connected. Of course, there are downsides to it all that I think we need to get better at mitigating. But part of what I'm, interested in working on the D-Web is that, a lot of the assumptions that we made in scaling Web 2 have a lot of unintended consequences, a lot of downsides, and Web 3 and IPFS and Filecoin are part of this huge movement that kind of open up possibilities to make the web a lot more interoperable, more democratized, more open again. So that's why I'm here, and that's why it's so fun, watching this explosion of projects in the Web3 space.
And then what's the difference between, I don't know how to read this one, with the Filecoin, with the story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these are both systems for storing data in decentralized ways. I think, what we've done at Filecoin is brought together a community of storage providers that are adding up to the, by far the largest decentralized storage network in the world. And, I don't think the size of the network matters immediately when you're building an application, but that also means the network is more decentralized, the network is going to be more available, more resilient, more performant.
And is there a grouping feature in IPFS like directories or folders?
Yes, so when your content gets turned into a CID, it actually gets turned into a series of recursive CIDs, creating a Merkle tree. Let me try to grab a link to some docs that describe that further, so you can basically refer to either the folder itself or any of the contents inside.
Thank you for sharing the link. So as we are going to end time of this workshop, so perhaps we may take 2 or 3 more questions maximum. So people, if you have some questions, like, try to drop it quick. And I'd like to perhaps ask you one question that a lot of hackers now are just in ideation phase. What would be your tip to have a kind of groundbreaking ideas, starting point of like a new thinking out of the box?
Well, all of you come from so many different experiences, universities, backgrounds, and I think that really great projects come when people deeply understand a very specific problem. So whatever you bring from the rest of your life, like your whole life experience, your community, your past career, maybe other courses you're taking at university, or something that your roommate is very passionate about, find a specific problem space that you can be the world's great, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but find a problem space that like no other teams here might know as well as you do, and then try to see what kind of solutions, what kind of interesting projects can be done to address that problem space.
That's very inspiring. Like, especially still a lot of people are rather new to blockchain domain or like NFT. So it'll motivate a lot of people to use their previous experience on the project. Is there any more questions? You have limited time left to drop your question. Was IPFS created by the Filecoin team?
Both of these protocols were essentially the invention of Juan Benet, who's also the founder of Protocol Labs. A lot of the developers from core IPFS also were the core developers on Filecoin, but we've also brought in a lot of community contributors from other organizations as well. So yes and no. Looks like our Orion is looking for a potential partner.
How long has IPFS been around?
I think it was first developed in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, and the initial release was in early 2015, so about 6 years. Which is both a really long and really short amount of time. If you think about everything that's been built around it since then, it's pretty incredible.
So while preparing perhaps like last questions, I will share like links one more time for the next events. As we mentioned before, we're gonna have 3 events coming, roundtable and the ideation workshop, also like NFT spotlight workshop. So please register your seat on Eventbrite, and there's a link for NFT hackers for preparing hacker pack and also the challenge description, so you can see reading the challenge article what kind of task you can tackle. And if you are not in our Discord server by any chance, here is all the SNS of the Encode Club, so you can follow us on Twitter, or like if you go to YouTube, you will see this video as well. Once when we upload to the YouTube, we always announce to the Twitter, so you can watch this video again. And this one is very important one. So Filecoin Educate series. So if you missed the opportunity to attend the Educate series, here is the all recorded video. So you can recap all Educate series before you're hacking. Any other questions, guys?
Oh, I just wanted to put a shout out for that roundtable next Tuesday. The panelists are primarily the team that built NFT.Storage. So if you have, if you have a chance to play around with it the next few days and bring your questions or ideas to that conversation, that's going to be a great set of people to talk to you about the nitty-gritty of using NFT.Storage.
And also, while hacking, maybe you will check out storage helpers like recommended by Mosh. If you have some technical questions, or if there's some tips you need, you can drop the questions on Discord. So Filecoin team gonna be also helping you out. And if you didn't register for the hackathon yet, here is the link, so you can register for the NFT hack. Okay, we are not really sharing the copy of the chat itself, but all the links you can find it on the Discord. So if you're in our Discord server, there's all the events and all the registration links are shared on the server, so you can check it under the NFT hack. By any chance, if you don't see this Filecoin NFT hack, it means that you should go to unlock your access. On the server, you can see that like a welcome and there's unlock access. You need to click the right emoji to enter to each channel. So please do so. And then you can see all link we will be uploading or regarding to each events. So future events are already shared there. And once when you upload the YouTube videos, we will be announcing there as well. Okay. So unless there is no technical question left, maybe like short question I'd like to ask is, what could be like some fun NFT project you would have built? Don't think about like a success in the market, just like anything fun. What would you build, Mosh?
I'm a little too obsessed with this data DAO idea because I've been talking to researchers about this for several years. So that's definitely the one that I would look into, a way for anybody to contribute data to a commons, and then anybody in the world to participate to the maintenance and availability of it.
Good. So then our workshop coming to the end. If you have more questions, but if you didn't have chance to drop it here, please feel free to use the Discord server. You can ask technical questions or non-technical questions there. Thank you again, Mosh and Protocol Labs for amazing workshop. Also, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who is attending. Nice questions. It's very, very informative. Please check all the links to join the hackathon and also future events. You can see that on Discord channel as well. And all the information you couldn't find, you can also ping me on the Discord. So everyone, see you next time. And can you maybe share a one words, Mosh, before finishing?
Oh, I always like the Encode events because the participants are so engaged and have, clearly understand the subject matter and are ready to make some great stuff. So I had a great time. Thank you all for having me. Look forward to seeing you on the Discord and in your project submissions and everywhere in between.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a great workshop, and everyone, please stay tuned for our recorded video app. Then perhaps see you in the future events, everyone.